We are getting word that Illinois Congressman Aaron Schock is resigning from Congress. Resigning. The Republican facing big questions about his spending habits. Let me bring in our chief congressional correspondent, Dana Bash, and chief political analyst, Gloria Borger. Dana, first to you. Talk to me about this resignation. What are you hearing?
That he just released a statement, said that he is going to resign effective March 31st. So just in a couple of weeks at the end of this month. He says he does it with a heavy heart and serving the people of the 18th district is the highest and greatest honor that I've had. And then he goes on to say constant questions over the last 6 weeks have proven a great distraction that has made it too difficult for me to serve the people of the 18th district. Now, of course, we have been reporting, Athena Jones, my colleague, Deirdre Walsh, others have been reporting on the extensive questions that have just come up over and over again, specifically about his expenses, his record keeping, using taxpayer money to be on private jets, on planes, to take trips that were not appropriate to do with taxpayer money, that he eventually paid back or was trying to pay back. But I just talked to a source who's been involved in the discussions internally, trying to figure out what is going on. And the answer was that it was just too hard to figure out what was going on. It was just a drip. And it just became very clear that the record keeping, Brooke, and the way that the expenses were done in his office, it was too much. It was done too incorrectly. And it was very clear that he was not going to be able to survive this, never mind this term, but just to be able to continue to go on and doing his job.
We know that he's been grilled, right? He's been grilled over, and you mentioned the drip. My question would be, when did the drip start? Because we know he's been grilled. Drew Griffin, our investigative correspondent, has been, has done entire profile pieces on this sort of spending, perhaps misuse of taxpayer and campaign funds, Gloria Borger. But when did this really begin?
It started, and Dana, correct me if I'm wrong, when it was reported that he spent over $40,000 of his taxpayer dollars redecorating his office to look like Downton Abbey. Right.
Which was paid back. That was
paid back. Look, the rules governing the use of taxpayer money, these taxpayer accounts that members of Congress have grown more and more strict over the years, and they're very scrutinized when anybody raises a question. This is what the ethics committees spend an awful lot of time doing, and I think that what we can say is that what occurred here, as Dana was pointing out, is that so many questions were being raised in so many different areas, not only about the office redecoration, but about trips on private planes, on entertainment, et cetera, that after a while, the ethics committee is going to say to you, to a certain degree, we don't see how you're defending this. And I think that's what Schock is effectively admitting.
How do, and forgive me, this is maybe an obtuse question, but Dana Bash, how do members of Congress think they can get away with redecorating an office to look like the set of a popular TV show, or using these flights, or using all this money? I mean, ethics committees exist for a reason, right?
Right, and the irony is that, just as Gloria said, that was what started the questions and the sort of his spending under the microscope, and it turns out that wasn't even the issue. The issue was that they did not, as I said, they did not have good record keeping. They have been going. He hired a couple of lawyers. They've been trying to go over to figure out how it was done over the past several years, and it turns out that it was just there were too many examples of him not properly using taxpayer money, or maybe the better way to say it is that he didn't use either his personal money or political money and follow the rules, follow the law, and look, a lot of these members of Congress, they're not record keepers, they're not bookkeepers. I'm not saying that he should be excused for it, but they rely on staff to do things properly, and that clearly did not happen here. The buck does stop with him, which is why he's clearly resigning at this point. The other thing I should mention is that Aaron Schock, we kind of know who he is because he has been a young rising star. He is somebody who is, is incredibly accessible. He is somebody who is articulate in the policy and politics of Republicans. He represents a very conservative district in southern Illinois. I mean, you talk about, the joke is, what do people in Peoria think? Well, he represents Peoria. And I think in this case, because he has had such a jet-set life. I mean, part of the issue isn't just the expenses, it's where he was going, to rock concerts with Katy Perry, to Buckingham Palace. That's not the kind of thing that I think a lot of people in his very kind of salt of the earth constituency that they're used to. I mean, they had people like Ray LaHood, who was here for a very long time, who was so well respected that he actually went to work for a Democratic president. Bob Michael, who was a Republican leader. I mean, these are very different kinds of Republicans.
Well,
and so it was also probably clear he was going to get a Republican challenge.
I was just going to say, there's every reason to believe that politically he would have a lot of trouble surviving this.
Well, young rising star to rise no longer, according to Dana, effective March 31st. Ladies, thank you, Dana Bash and Gloria Borger.